Hey everybody, so today I wanted to talk about a very special movie that's impacted my life and changed the course of my life. Um, it's the movie called The Truman Show, and it revolves around a character, Truman, who grows up in a film studio where it's a TV show, and he doesn't realize that he's on a TV show. He just thinks he's living a normal life, and everything is controlled within the system of the TV show, and everyone pretty much keeps him in a state of suburban life, yet not, going out wanting to explore anything like that, even though he himself wants to explore the world. Everything in his society keeps him from wanting to leave his town uh, and ultimately leave the studio. But what I wanted to express is how much of an impact it's had in my life, because every time I view it, I see it through a different lens. It's been around for about 24 years now. It came out in 1998. I'm actually the same age Jim Carrey was when he did the movie himself. But what I think about when I think about the movie, I think about the individual and I think about society. And I think that's a really relevant theme within the movie itself, because Truman is an individual who is self-contained by by the obligations of the studio, of society, and he goes about his life wanting to be independent, wanting to explore, and there's so many things that keep him within his boundaries. And I think to myself, how much different is that to our current situation? You know, um, we as individuals that live in society, our autonomy and freedom only comes at the essentially at the level of how much wealth you can accumulate in order to travel. And, circumstances like COVID and other factors keep people from traveling. And that's kind of a tangent subject, but essentially, there's things that keep people from wanting to leave their hometown, wanting to leave their state. They have friends and family, they have financial obligations, and those are all things that in reality keep Truman within the life and community that he lives in. And I think that's not too different from individuals that live a suburban life. And, of course, we're not being filmed, we're not the star of some TV show, but the reality is that much like Truman, our world is manufactured to a certain degree. Society, especially suburban life, has been manufactured to raise a family, have kids, have them grow up, graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, have a family, have children, get a job, and then go through the same cycle all over again. And it's that suburban lifestyle that people are subjected to, and there's nothing wrong with it. People can live a happy life, and if they plan their life to go in that direction. Um, but for some individuals, there's so many people that want to explore and see the world, but they have financial obligations, and that's something that is brought up in the show, in the Truman Show. Is he's wanting to go to Fiji because there was a girl named Sylvia who was trying to break him out of his simulated world of the TV show in the studio, not realizing that he's in a TV show, telling him that it's all you know, it's all fake and he's living in a false reality. So he wants to go to Fiji. So he goes to his wife that he's settled with, and she tells him, we're just gonna up and leave, and we have our financial obligations and all these other things. And I think to myself, that's not too different from a lot of other people. So many other people want to travel and see the world, but they don't have the finances to take them to where they want to go to. Um, but I think there's a deeper implication in the elements and themes within the Truman Show when it comes down to individuality and the obligations the individual has to society. And I got my couple of things in my mail today, and I just think to myself, whenever I get a bill that comes in, I get an anxiety attack because I'm like, okay, that has to get paid immediately, and so I have my own financial obligations. But I think to myself, I just wonder how much an individual owes themselves to society and to the system, because I feel like so many things, so many factors within our life keep us within our boundaries. Now, the last thing that I want to make a statement about is, if you live in a hometown where you have family and friends and you're content with that, there's nothing wrong with that. You should, if you intend on living in a life that you've settled with, then there's nothing wrong necessarily with settling. But I've noticed that we as a society and we as individuals like to stay within our comfort zones, and that very aspect of the movie is about Truman getting out of his comfort zone and waking up and realizing that everyone around him are actors, and then the only person that was authentic and real with him was Sylvia, who was trying to let him know that he was in a TV show. And I think to myself, it's just um, one of the things that I went through with my mental health, having bipolar disorder and having an episode can have an event that triggers a degree of psychosis. And what it does is it makes you think that you're it essentially makes you think that you're being watched, and that there's surveillance, and that uh, and that you're in some ways the world revolves around you, and you're a part of a TV show. And that happens a lot to people with psychosis. They think that they're in some sort of simulated reality, or there's a star of some show or something like that. That can happen. I don't think it's I think it's universal, but I don't think it's discussed as much. After the Truman Show movie came out, there was the Truman Show effect. It was like a condition where someone actually thinks that they're a part of a TV show. In fact, there was a YouTuber who came out talking about his struggle with schizoaffective disorder, and how when he first saw the movie, he started to think that people were watching him and that he was a part of a TV show, and then his mental illness started to escalate from that point forward. And I think to myself, we kind of live in a society that has conditioned us to pretty much, I don't know, I feel like um, when it came down to my circumstances, I think there's something deeper to a situation when you're going through psychosis. It's a break from reality, and yet I sometimes feel like it's the moment where you wake up and you realize so many people around you are putting on a persona. They're not being authentic. They're not being real with you. They're going about their lives following a certain script and saying certain things to, you know, to essentially, um, I'm trying to figure out how to express this. In order to reinforce consensus reality, they kind of follow the status quo and don't diverge too much from society. They follow the rules, and their individual autonomy is no longer as strong anymore. And I think to myself, that kind of happens when you're in psychosis. You just look around you and you think this is all an illusion. Everyone's an actor. You feel like the world revolves around you and you're being watched. And and of course, nowadays, people want to have the world revolve around them when they have access to media that gives them, that gives them an outlet for them to express themselves and then for people to watch them. And I've done that with my channel, but not that many people have subscribed to it thus far. But yeah, I think to myself, I think I constantly go back to watching the Truman Show just because I always feel like, do I have enough individual autonomy to go about my life and do what I desire and want to do? Can I, first and foremost, can I go and travel where I want to go to? And the reality is I can't. I don't have the finances and I don't have a vehicle. Um, and so any mode of transportation would have to be supplied by someone else. And I'm sure I could find ways to travel outside the city, but it would have to be, you know, taking a shuttle or public transportation, which I haven't used public transportation ever since college. But but yeah, I just think to myself, we keep ourselves in this societal bubble, this circle, and some of us never really break out of it. We never break out of the system. I talk about people that go off grid and travel somewhere where there there's no, where GPS can't track them and stuff, and people done that before. But I just think to myself, I just wonder about individual autonomy and the freedom that we have. And every time I watch the Truman Show, it makes me think, how much freedom and choice and free will do we have in our lives to be the captain of our destiny, be the captain of our fate. And yeah, I think about that sometimes, and there's other things that I wonder about because there's just a certain level of depth and layers to the story, the movie, and because part of it's about the individual, part of it's about society. It also says something about our current state of paranoia with surveillance. It addresses the fact of sort of a spiritual awakening that Truman has, realizing that he needs to break out of the illusion that society has constructed for himself. And I guess that's just what I wanted to express, is that when we grow up, we're conditioned and programmed to act and behave in a certain way and live within the boundaries of the system, within the program of society, and you just wonder, can a person have any individual freedom or autonomy to go about their lives and not only to act freely, but to think freely, to think for themselves rather than have some program script that was fed to them when they were younger. Part of it, I think to myself, even my religion that I was a part of had a certain script that it went by, and a level of uh, certain level of social etiquette and cultural standards that were imposed upon you at a young age that you couldn't really diverge from your religion if your parents were strong and faithful in their religion. And I think to myself, that's one of the things that I realized when I was out in college, is that I was just surrounded by people that were Mormons, and so many people that thought along the same they thought in a similar mindset. And so many people, I didn't find too many people actually were able to think for themselves. It was all within the cultural boundaries of their religion, whether it was the people that they socialized with or the entertainment they watched. It was dictated by some of the doctrines and rules that were set within their religion. I guess that's what religion is, but it just kind of sets this frame of constructing a world that may not be as authentic or real to you as an individual in expressing your voice and expressing who you are. And I think ultimately Truman wanted to explore the unknown. He wanted to travel. He wanted to see the world, and he makes every effort to do that within the movie. Um, I know there was some spoilers that I mentioned there, but it's a movie that's been out for a while, so I'm kind of surprised if someone has not seen the movie. But yeah, I think to myself that we just grow up in society, and so much of what we're brought up in, we're raised in this constructed and conditioned reality. We even the line of questioning that we have when we interact with other people is, well, what do you do? Where do you work at? And it's all about, to me, if you like your job, then it's a great question to ask someone. Well, yeah, I work at this place and I love it. And da, 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 da. There's a lot of people that they don't like the job that they're working at, and the last thing that they want to talk about is their job. And then for some people, like myself, that's on disability and unemployment, it's not my most favorite question to be asked. But then I just tell them honestly my circumstances, so they don't have to press further about where I'm at in my life. Um, but yeah, just I think to myself, when everything is controlled within society, within the system, within schools and governments and religion, can a person really reason and think critically for themselves and have their own individual thought process and their own unique voice and their own unique choices, or is it all dictated by the society that they live in? And it makes me think about that. But there's such a spiritual awakening to the movie as well, just realizing that so much of our life we take so seriously, and we realize that, at least from a Buddhist point of view, that reality is in some degree an illusion. It's a dream. We go about and play our parts, we play our roles, but do we ever really reveal who we truly are to people? Or is it just those that are close to us? Uh, but I just kind of wonder how many of us allow ourselves to be bound by the system of society, or can we really truly think individually for ourselves and have our own voice? So it's just something I wanted to share. It's a powerful movie, and I've been kind of I've been watching it a couple times this week. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to share that and leave those ideas and thoughts with you. So thank you for watching.